The emergence of a European, essentially anti-Russian version of the Barracuda 500M cruise missile is far more than a simple update to an existing weapon. It reflects a rapid transformation within Europe's defense industry, which is no longer just reacting to threats from Russia but actively adapting American technologies to its own operational realities. The strategic partnership between Anduril and the German giant Rheinmetall gives Europe access to a cheap, scalable, and highly flexible strike weapon that could change the balance of power on the continent. And the most important part is that this is the kind of weapon that may eventually appear in Ukraine, given Rheinmetall's expanding presence here. The Barracuda 500M, in its standard version, was designed as an affordable alternative to traditional strategic systems, lightweight, inexpensive, mass-producible, and compatible with a variety of platforms. In its original American concept, it was intended to strike relatively soft targets typical for a hypothetical U.S.-China conflict, island-based infrastructure, temporary bases, logistics hubs, and other lightly protected facilities. But Europe faces an entirely different threat landscape. Here, the primary opponent is Russia, with its dense network of hardened, fortified, and deeply protected military installations. This is why the European version has undergone a significant redesign. The European Barracuda 500M will receive a nearly doubled warhead, up from 45 kilograms to roughly 85. This is a major shift that fundamentally changes the type of targets the missile is meant to destroy. An 85-kilogram warhead moves the Barracuda into the category of lightweight tactical cruise missiles capable of destroying ammunition depots, hangars, command posts, air defense components, electronic warfare sites, and other hardened military infrastructures deep inside enemy territory. Increasing the warhead mass will almost certainly reduce the missile's range, most likely from about 900 kilometers to roughly 450 to 500. Yet this reduction makes sense from a European perspective. If the enemy is close, and its key targets fall within this radius, long-range capability becomes less important than destructive power. For Ukraine, a range of 450 to 500 kilometers covers all major military hubs in western Russia, Belgorod, Kursk, Bryansk and beyond. For NATO countries, it reaches a significant portion of the Russian Western Military District. In essence, Europe is optimizing the missile for the specific adversary it expects to confront. The key strength of the Barracuda, however, lies in its cost and scalability. An estimated $216,500 per missile, according to unofficial yet widely cited figures, is dramatically cheaper than traditional cruise missiles like Tomahawk or Storm Shadow/Scalp. In a world where mass has once again become a decisive factor in warfare, this price point makes the Barracuda a unique tool. It is no longer a boutique precision weapon but a foundation for a strategy of saturation. Dozens or hundreds of inexpensive missiles could overload Russian air defenses, forcing them to expend costly interceptors and opening the door for follow-up strikes. Another major advantage is its engineering simplicity. Anduril states that the Barracuda is designed to be built with minimal specialized infrastructure, assembled with a screwdriver and a wrench, as the company puts it. This simplicity allows rapid industrial scaling across Europe, and Rheinmetall could establish production lines in several countries. For Ukraine, this detail is particularly important. Rheinmetall is already active here, building repair facilities and discussing local production of armaments. A cruise missile designed for simplified assembly opens the theoretical possibility of future partial localization of production. The Barracuda's flexibility in deployment adds another layer of significance. Ground-launched versions are already in testing, making the missile suitable for mobile or static launchers without major infrastructure investment. It can also be deployed via Rapid Dragon pallets dropped from transport aircraft, turning platforms like C-130 or A-400M into improvised long-range strike systems. Air-launched versions are also possible, although they require upgrades to fighter jets to integrate the new weapon. For Ukraine, this path is harder to implement, but ground-based or palletized launch systems look much more realistic. The fact that the Barracuda 500M has already been discussed as an alternative or supplement to Tomahawk deliveries to Ukraine speaks volumes. Tomahawks are valuable strategic weapons, and their production capacity is limited. Anduril, by contrast, offers a cheaper, faster-to-produce solution. If the European version goes into mass production, it could become one of the most practical ways to supply Ukraine with modern long-range strike capabilities. The combination of a 450 to 500 km range and a significantly stronger warhead makes it particularly suited for hitting Russian airbases, logistics centers, command infrastructure, air defense sites, and critical energy facilities. The political backdrop is just as important. Europe increasingly recognizes that its confrontation with Russia will be long-term and that relying solely on U.S. strategic stockpiles is not a sustainable strategy. The European defense industry is experiencing its most significant growth since the Cold War. Rheinmetall's decision to include the Barracuda 500M in its development roadmap through 2030 indicates that this is not an experiment but a long-term initiative to build a new class of European strike weapons. From this perspective, the European Barracuda 500M becomes part of a broader shift toward creating a continental arsenal of affordable, high-impact precision weapons. It is designed not to match Russia tank for tank or gun for gun but to impose strategic costs, to force Russia to constantly protect its deep rear, expend resources, and remain under the pressure of potential precision strikes. For Ukraine, such a missile could become a game-changer. With Russia continually striking Ukrainian cities and infrastructure, and with Western high-precision weapons supplied in limited quantities, access to cheap and mass-producible cruise missiles could drastically alter the strategic situation. It would provide the ability to disrupt logistics, suppress air defenses, hit fuel depots, strike command centers, and keep Russian military planners under constant pressure. Ultimately, the development of an anti-Russian Barracuda 500M is not merely a technical upgrade. It symbolizes a fundamental shift. Europe is no longer content with a reactive defense posture. It is beginning to build its own offensive capabilities, affordable, scalable, and tailored specifically for the threat it faces. And these capabilities may play a decisive role not only in European security but also in our shared path toward a Ukrainian victory.